46-year-old Cindy Waldron had always been there for her best friend, Leanne Mitchell. They had met in high school and had remained close friends ever since. When Leanne was diagnosed with cancer, it was a shock to both of them. Their unfaltering friendship was now more important than ever to help Leanne get through her treatment. So, in May 2016, when Leanne had battled through treatment and was finally given the all-clear, Cindy wanted to reward her with a weekend getaway to celebrate. The pair, both originally from New Zealand, headed to Daintree National Park in the far north of Queensland, Australia. The area, covered in rainforest, is a beautiful and tranquil place to relax. Stunning beaches set amongst lush greenery offer an escape from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. It has raw, wild, and ancient flora and fauna. It is home to the elusive cassowary, the large flightless bird that roamed the earth more than 60 million years ago. Tropical birds perch in the trees, and vibrant kingfishers and butterflies fly over the meandering creeks and waterways. It was the perfect place to celebrate Leanne's new lease of life. Cindy had moved to Australia from New Zealand 18 years before. She worked as a photographer in Lithgow, in North-South Wales, and knew the country well now. She was excited about the trip and left her family behind so that she could really enjoy the weekend with her best friend. On the last evening of their visit, when the stars were out, the pair headed down to Thornton Beach near Cape Tribulation, and in the darkness they failed to notice the warning signs erected along the perimeter of the beach. These depicted the very real dangers posed by crocodiles in the area. Swimming was not recommended, and visitors should remain a safe distance from the water's edge. But the canopy of stars, the beach, and surrounding water looked picture perfect. Either the two women didn't see the signs, or they ignored them. They ran around on the beach like little girls again. Then they walked, arm in arm, along the sand. They kicked their shoes off and stepped down towards the water. But they weren't alone that night. In the darkness, a predator lurked. It had heard the sounds of the two women and was alerted to their presence as they stepped into the shallow water. The coolness engulfed their feet, and they felt the damp sand between their toes. Watching them a short distance away was an estuarine crocodile, otherwise known as a saltee or saltwater croc. They are the largest of all living reptiles, and at 4.3 meters, 14 feet long, and weighing in excess of 300 kilograms, 660 pounds, this one was out on the hunt. They are an opportunistic, mostly nocturnal hunters that will eat fish, birds, and mammals ranging in size from dingoes up to an enormous water buffalo. They can close their jaws shut at a bite force of over 3,000 psi. They are formidable predators, and entering the water in northern Queensland during nighttime hours was just asking for trouble. The two women continued to walk in knee-high water, arm in arm. The crocodile watched, only its eyes and nostrils protruding through the surface of the water. Then, when it sensed the time was right, it fully submerged. Below the surface, it pushed itself through the water towards where the two women were paddling. It was now 10:30 at night, and Leanne suddenly stopped talking as she felt something brush past her leg. She didn't immediately think it was a crocodile. It felt like a rough log, perhaps washed downriver from a recent storm. It grazed her skin. She instinctively pulled her leg up and out of the water. When she did so, Cindy suddenly shrieked, "It's got me!" Leanne thought that it may have been something like some seaweed tangled around Cindy's foot, and her shriek was the initial fright of it brushing over her toes. She didn't know that it was, in fact, one of the most deadly predators on the face of the earth. Seconds later, Cindy was pulled off her feet. She had felt the force of the bite clamp down around her lower leg, and she knew she was in serious trouble. She screamed, and Leanne held tightly onto her friend's arm as she was pulled into the water. The two of them splashed in the shallows, each trying to fight off the predator. It pulled them both into deeper water, where Leanne could no longer stand up. She refused to let go of Cindy. She refused to give up. Reaching down, she felt the crocodile's head just below the surface, and she began punching it as hard as she could. Her knuckles were battered and bruised from hitting the steel-like exterior of the crocodile's skull. She kept on at it, delivering blow after blow, but it felt useless against the armored skin. She clawed at Cindy's arm, trying to pull her free from the vice-like grip. But as the seconds ticked by, the crocodile seemed to get stronger and stronger. It wasn't giving in. Leanne tried to wrap both of her arms around her friend in an attempt to pull her free. In the fight, she spoke her last words to her friend. "I've got you, babe. I've got you. It's okay. I've got you." But she didn't have her, and despite her brave and determined efforts, the crocodile gave one strong tug and pulled Cindy from Leanne's arms and beneath the water. Her lifelong friend was gone. There was nothing left. No more signs of a struggle. No more splashing or yelling. Cindy was pulled downwards, eventually drowned in the jaws of the enormous reptile. Leanne needed to get help fast. She swam back out of the water and screamed and screamed. She shouted her friend's name over and over to try and summon attention from anybody who may be nearby. She screamed for her friend to come back. When help didn't arrive, she ran as fast as she could over the sand to the nearest business. From there, police and other authorities were alerted and rushed to the scene. There was no sign of Cindy. The search by the State Emergency Service was hampered by bad weather that night, and the following morning, torrential rain flooded the area. Even so, they deployed one of their search boats, which ran up and down the coastline, looking for any signs of the missing 46-year-old. Rangers from nearby Townsville joined the large-scale search the following day, whilst Leanne received treatment at Mossman Hospital. She had sustained puncture wounds and grazes from the battle, and was in a state of shock. As a search and rescue helicopter scoured the open water, smaller boats from the water-based police unit tracked up and down nearby rivers. The local cafe on the beach was closed to the public as it became used as the command post. Wildlife experts also provided assistance and knowledge for the authorities. After an extensive search, a large crocodile that was known to inhabit the water where Cindy was taken was caught. It was the prime suspect in the attack, and officials euthanized it. When they cut it open, there were human remains inside, thought to belong to Cindy. They were satisfied that they had caught the correct crocodile. Cindy's father and sister traveled from New Zealand to Thornton Beach. They needed to see where Cindy had been in her final moments. They knew she would often do crazy things, and this, said her father, was certainly on the list of crazy. They said an emotional farewell on the beach and ended by saying that they didn't want the crocodile to come to harm. It was a terrible end to what was supposed to be a celebratory weekend away. Cindy will always be remembered by her loved ones. Although any tragic incident like this is a shock for everyone, locals weren't surprised to hear about it. Only a couple of weeks earlier had a man entered the water in exactly the same spot for a dip when he was urged to get out by locals. Despite the warning signs and knowledge of crocodiles in Australian waters, people still go swimming in dangerous locations. Its water is so inviting, and the countryside is picturesque, but people need to be more croc-aware. The attack on Cindy was entirely avoidable. Had the two women adhered to the warnings and not ventured into the water that night, then the attack never would have happened. Following the tragedy, the state government allocated an extra $5.8 million over 3 years for comprehensive population surveys and crocodile management. On average, 2 people every year are killed by crocodiles in Australian waters. People know they are out there, and yet they still take the risks, resulting in people like Cindy Waldron meeting their terrifying final affliction.